So I guess 2 hours ago, breaking news: Mexico cartel turns in own men over U.S. kidnappings from the BBC. Reports from the Mexican border city of Matamoros says a splinter group of the Gulf cartel called the Scorpions Group has apologized for kidnapping four U.S. citizens last week, killing two of them, and has turned over the men it says are responsible. Boom, mind blown. On their front pages, many of Mexico's newspapers published a photograph that appears to show five men laying face down on the ground, their hands tied and their t-shirts pulled up above their heads. It was apparently taken as police arrived on the scene. A letter from the Scorpions group was allegedly left with the men, which apologized to the people of Matamoros, to the U.S. victims and their families, and to a Mexican woman killed last week when the gang fired on a white minivan the Americans were traveling in. The Associated Press says it has obtained a copy of the letter from a law enforcement official in the state of Tamaulipas. We have decided to turn over those who were directly involved and responsible for the events. The letter reads, saying the five had acted under their own decision making and lack of discipline. The letter also accuses the men of breaking the cartel's rules over protecting the lives of the innocent. That's crazy. So do you remember, like,
Yeah.
3 years ago, it became this thing where, like, oh, families, like religious groups and families were getting shot to death, or like
Yep.
just over Mexico, and Trump was like telling Mexico, like, if you need help I will, and I was like, no, you should just do it. And he didn't listen to me. I thought they should have
hmm
done it anyway. This kind of reminds me though, why is a Mexican cartel doing a better job at justice than the United States government right now to its own people? They found the bad guys, which were their people, it looks like, turned them over to the police and apologized for it to protect the lives of the innocent. It's pretty crazy. I wonder what's happening with that. And that reminds me of the DNA, right? The D.N.A or whatever it was. You're the one
Oh,
that told me about it.
Declaration of North America.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you saw that SNL skit with Woody the other day, right?
Yep.
Where he talked about all the cartels in the world getting together and forcing everyone into their homes unless they took their drugs, and they couldn't leave unless they kept taking them. And he made the joke that, like, I threw it away because that would never happen. Like, I take
hmm
drugs by myself or something like that. Well, that's weird. What a Mandela effect kind of world are we living in, where these cartels are actually doing like police work on their own? I could see if it was like another cartel or other, random people, but they're actually holding their own accountable.
Well, I guess they're trying to turn a new leaf because everyone doesn't like them, right? So they're trying to get on the good side of the people, so they'll stay relevant.
That makes sense. I wonder if they're also part of the problem with the human trafficking over the border.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, I wonder if they're with that because of the whole rape trees and all that stuff. But that's very interesting because they're talking about protecting the innocent.
Right.
I mean, I don't know much about these cartel groups, but So it continues. Meanwhile, a health clinic in Matamoros, where the cartel members allegedly took the injured U.S. citizens for treatment, has been cordoned off by police. Reports suggest the four Americans were taken there by the gang, but the two with the worst injuries, Shaid Woodward and Zindel Brown, died soon after. Reuters news agency reported that Mexican officials had given the bodies of the two dead men to U.S. officials in Matamoros on Thursday afternoon, and their remains were repatriated. The latest developments come as some doubts have been cast in Mexico in the initial version of events. The groups were said to have traveled to Matamoros for one of them, Latavia McGee, to undergo a cosmetic medical procedure at a clinic in the city. Her three friends were said to have accompanied her to the appointment. However, the Reuters news agency has reported that three of the four Americans had convictions for mainly minor drug related offenses, but one was charged with manufacturing banned narcotics with the intent to distribute. Reuters says it's seen an internal law enforcement document which shows the Mexican authorities are investigating the possibility the four Americans were kidnapped, having been mistaken for rival cartel members encroaching on their turf. That makes sense. And they effed up. So, yeah, they're trying to stay low, is what it looks like. They're trying not to be like, oh, yeah, we did that. Apologies, don't look at us. That's what it seems like. I'm sure just like the rest of the world, the cartels, even within themselves, even if they are warring or not, the intensity is getting more and more. The heat's getting more and more on them. But that could be just because they're getting so big as well. And they have the freedom to move around. They don't have to hide as much. That's the thing. Once people are allowed to move a lot more and do what they're doing a lot easier without all the restraints and restrictions and under the cover of dark and hiding it, they get too big and all of a sudden it gets out of control. So maybe that's their way of getting it back under under control. Very interesting. Because just like our own government, I believe they're working a lot of the same, where they know that if one day there's a good chance they will all be held responsible for their actions. And getting that big and getting that crazy, just like the stuff in the news these days, is going to ultimately lead to their convictions someday.
Oh yeah. Everyone's gonna hate the government.
I think everyone already hates the government. I think they're just getting better reasons as to why to pick it apart piece by piece, person by person, job title by job title.